you most excited about right now, Max? Obviously, you're the face of boxing, especially here at ESPN.
There's so much going on. I hope that that Errol Spence is what he was before the accident. If he wins his fight against Garcia and advances, I would love to see the PBC stop ignoring Terence Crawford. Sean Porter's not ignoring him. Terence Crawford's name is in Sean Porter's mouth because he's a real champion with real heart. I don't want to hear Errol Spence talk about, well, I can make money over here. It's a business. I want to see Errol Spence and Terence Crawford put aside any promotional and network issues and get in that damn ring.
Absolutely correct.
Dre Spector Boxing here with another video. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Also hit the bell notification, that way you stay up to date on the latest content. Again, it doesn't take nothing but a second to hit that like button. It also helps my channel, helps grow and get more recognition for the channel so I can get out there. All right, you just heard him, Max Kellerman, again with the narratives and agendas. He talked about the possible matchup of Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, and it's just some of the key words and key things that he said. Me and Max have been on this same collision course as Errol Spence and Terence Crawford needed to fight each other, and I've been saying this since Crawford was at 140 pounds. And I knew he was going to eventually come up to 147, and that notion was out there about 4 years ago. So I think, around 2016, I think that's when I first started thinking of this imaginary matchup, which should come to fruition at some point. They need to fight, and I knew it was going to be a mega fight because I felt that Top Rank was building Terence Crawford on that side. Well, they've done a poor job since then building up that fighter and making him a household name, even though he's on one of the biggest platforms in the world for sports in ESPN. But let's get to some of the points that Max Kellerman said in this short little clip. And this is after they did the pound for pound ranking, right? He said if Errol Spence is what he was before the accident. Now he uses that and says if Errol Spence is what he was before the accident. Now he's using to say if he is what he is, then he should fight Terence Crawford. But just moments before, he was doing a pound for pound ranking, and he said because of Errol Spence not being what he was before the accident, he shouldn't even make the pound for pound list because of inactivity and him not being what he was before possibly not being what he was before the accident. So in one, you see how when it came to the pound for pound ranking, he shouldn't make the pound for pound ranking because he might not be what he is, but he should fight Terence Crawford because I think if he is what he is after he fight Danny Garcia. You see how they try to push agendas and narratives. This is nothing new for Max Kellerman, man. He's been doing this his whole career. It was the same thing with HBO. He plays to the interests of the network. So if the interest of a network is to boost one fighter by bringing down another fighter, Max Kellerman is all full game to do so. He's their boy. He was HBO's boy. And he did it to the liking of executives so much that he's blossomed and he's grown and landed him a great gig. I think he's a great journalist for boxing, reporter, journalist, analyst, whatever hat you want to hang on his head. But he does a great job for boxing when he's not just pushing narratives. But right now, again, I say he's pushing a narrative, he's pushing an agenda with the if he was what he was before the accident, because it changed when it was from the pound for pound list versus when you're talking about a future matchup with Terence Crawford. Then it says the PBC should stop ignoring Crawford, right? And that was very interesting to hear that he said that the PBC should stop ignoring Crawford. And it's funny you give that energy to this one fighter, for this one fighter in Crawford, but we don't talk about any of the other networks ignoring other fighters. What about Canelo? I've heard Jamal Charlo call out Canelo for so long, it hurts. I asked him to stop. I actually asked Jamal Charlo to stop chasing Canelo because Canelo's not going to fight you. It's too much of a threat. But you don't have that same you don't hear Max Kellerman coming out and saying, tell Golden Boy to stop and coming up with these excuses on why they won't fight Jamal Charlo, because that's not a part of his agenda. That's not a part of the narrative in which he wants to paint. So when it comes to Canelo, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, top pound for pound guy in the world. That's what you're gonna hear. But you don't hear Jamal Charlo on that, in that argument. Stop making excuses about you want to make the most money and that nobody has interest in Jamal Charlo. He's not a name. This, that, and the third. Here. It's always something. But with Canelo, when it comes to Jamal Charlo, and it's given an excuse or a pass. But when it comes to Errol Spence now that he's becoming a cash cow, stop ignoring Crawford. We need to make this matchup by any means necessary. You see how it fits their agenda, it fits their narrative. You know what I mean? And I don't like to go into agendas and narratives, but this was just so blatant. Then he goes by and he says Sean Porter is a real true champion at heart. That's why he is calling out Terence Crawford. Well, that's not a good example when you're using Sean Porter, because Sean Porter didn't fight Terence Crawford, even though he did call out Sean Porter. Did he get the fight? He is an active top level competition, and he didn't get the fight. So you're using him to put pressure on Errol Spence. It's not it's not a good example of someone that you can use to say that is a real champion to support your narrative for Terence Crawford. It just doesn't work. Now you turn around and you say the same thing. You try to use that narrative. to build up Crawford, and it doesn't really work because Crawford is facing Kell Brook. He did not take on that tough challenge that Errol Spence had just took on in his last fight in Sean Porter. Sean Porter was open, had no one to fight, said that he was willing to fight Terence Crawford, and like you said, kept Terence Crawford's name in his mouth. But Terence Crawford didn't respond to that. He didn't fight him. So how is that a good example? But all of this wrapped up, it just shows you some of the agendas and some of the narratives that these guys will like to paint, and it applies to one side, it applies to at one moment, but it does not apply all the time. I want you to keep that same energy, Max. If Errol Spence is supposed to fight Terence Crawford, which I agree, there should be no excuses, but there should be no excuses or passes given to Canelo. But also, he should not use that same narrative to turn around and say that Errol Spence doesn't belong on the top pound for pound list. Because if you go by resume and records and recent events, he has a better claim to top pound for pound than Terence Crawford. By far. Tougher competition, better performances, by far. Hey, that's Dre Spector, man. That's all I got for you for now. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about the video, what you think about what Max Kellerman is going on, some of the narratives that they're painting from ESPN. I do want to see the matchup. Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence should happen next. If it's not Crawford, as I've always stated, I want to see unifications. I think it should be Manny Pacquiao. There is no other opponents in my opinion. That's just what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. That's Dre Spector, and I'm out.